see the title, man. Let's get
A
to it.
lot of you viewers are extremely knowledgeable when it comes to the deep and rich history of the NBA, so you'll be able to relate to me on this.
Facts.
When you have a knowledgeable understanding of past generations of basketball, you tend to get frustrated when the mainstream media completely disregards certain players who deserve to be in the conversation. Day after day, it's all about Jordan versus LeBron, and everyone
That's a fact. Let me know if y'all how y'all feel about that. Cause I, you know what I'm saying, I know there's definitely a bunch of players y'all got in the back of y'all minds that just, you know what I'm saying, don't get nearly enough love as they should, you know. It's, yo, I already know I'm gonna be that guy too, man. Later on, yo, I'm gonna be talking about Dave, you know what I'm saying, Kyrie. Come on, bro. You know what I'm saying? Cause those are, like, come on, bro.
else seems to be worthless in the conversation in the eyes of the media. Obviously, that's because there's an agenda behind it. The mainstream sports outlets want as many clicks as possible, so they will always steer the conversation in particular directions. If the GOAT conversation was all about Kareem versus Jordan, well then that wouldn't get as many clicks, because it doesn't involve an active player, which means it isn't as relevant to the modern audience. Trust me, I've seen this cycle play out a few times over the decades. Just wait until LeBron retires.
And that's probably why other players aren't mentioned in the GOAT debate more, and LeBron is really the front runner with the in the GOAT debate because he's still in the playing. You know what I'm saying? He's still playing, and he just brings in so much noise. You know what I'm saying? That it only makes sense, and it might be a narrative, but I don't know, bro. I don't know.
And it will no longer be all about Jordan versus LeBron, because you'll then be talking about two retired players. Once LeBron is retired, they'll find a new active player to compare to a former great, whether that's LeBron or Jordan. So with this in mind, I began to wonder, who are some of the players who have been pushed aside in the conversations about who's the greatest? I decided to break this down by positions, and let me know in the comments if you agree or disagree with my selections. Starting off the list, we're looking at the center position, which is the most competitive group of legends in NBA history. But for me personally, the guy who absolutely deserves to be in the conversation of the greatest centers of all time is the man known as the chairman of the boards, Moses Malone. This 6'10 center dominated the league right before Magic and Bird took over the NBA and stole all of the attention, which kind of explains why he's so under-recognized. In his career, Malone was a 13-time All-Star, a 6-time rebounding champion, a 3-time league MVP, an NBA champion, and the 1983 Finals MVP. Without question, he was one of the greatest rebounders of all time. But more specifically, since the offensive rebounding stats have been tracked, he's the greatest offensive rebounder in NBA history, and it's not even remotely close. Between NBA and ABA stats, these are the four totals of the other top 5 offensive rebounders of all time. And then, way ahead of them, in a stratosphere completely on his own, is Moses Malone, who was over 2,500 offensive rebounds ahead of the nearest competitor. At his peak,
a lot of second chance opportunities, probably a lot of second chance buckets. You know what I'm saying? Because with opportunity comes buckets. You know what I'm saying?
He was averaging over 30 points per game and around 15 rebounds, while making first-team All-Defense on 2 separate occasions. I believe the reason why Moses isn't remembered more fondly by specific organizations is because he's probably the greatest journeyman in the history of the NBA, as he changed teams a total of 10 times in his 21-year career. Regardless, when you look at his career and production as a whole, there's no reason why Malone shouldn't be considered as a top-tier center among the all-time greats. Next, I'm looking at the power forward position, and the player who should be in the discussion, but almost never is the Boston Celtics legend Kevin McHale. McHale was so dangerous and efficient.
I did not expect that. I thought he was going to say like Karl Malone because he showed the picture of Karl Malone. But, damn, Kevin McHale? Is he talking about the GOAT of that position? Damn. Cause I ain't get GOAT vibes from Kevin McHale, my brother. You know. Definitely, I ain't gonna lie, definitely did not.
In the post that he was nicknamed the torture chamber because of how he dominated helpless defenders. It makes sense why they had no answer for him, as he was 6 foot 10 inches tall with an 8 foot long wingspan. On top of that ridiculous reach, McHale also had an extremely high release point on his jump shot. Along with that, McHale had some of the best footwork of any big man that I've ever seen, second only to Hakeem Olajuwon. In the history of the NBA, only 2 players have shot at least 60% from the field and 80% from the free throw line while averaging at least 20 points per game. Those players are Nikola Jokic and Kevin McHale. And McHale had the highest scoring average of any player who's reached those percentages, which was when he scored 26.1 points per game in 1987. His ridiculous size and wingspan. And I think
in the 80s, the pace of the game was about the same as it is today, right?
And also made him a terrifying interior defender, as he deserves a tremendous amount of credit for the Celtics' consistently elite defense throughout the 1980s. Obviously, Larry Bird deserves the majority of the credit for his success. He doesn't win nearly as much in that decade if it wasn't for his all-time great sidekick. In total, McHale was a 3-time champion, he made 7 All-Star teams, and made 6 All-Defense teams. Honestly, I remember in the early 2000s, McHale was usually debated among the greatest power forwards of all time, alongside of Karl Malone and Charles Barkley. But ever since the emergence of Dirk Nowitzki, Kevin Garnett, and Tim Duncan, McHale has seemed to have become an afterthought in the discussion, but without question, he deserves a spot in that conversation. Next up, let's take a look at the small forward position. As far as I can tell, the small forward debate is always between 2 greats, LeBron James and Larry Bird. But there's another player who could definitely have an argument, but most people do not include him because of a technicality. He's known as the Dr. Julius Erving. This 6'7" small forward was known to many as the Michael Jordan before Michael Jordan, as he dominated the game with his graceful skills and with his incredible athletic ability. The thing is, Dr. J was playing professional basketball during the NBA merger in 1976, which means that he spent some years in the ABA and many years in the NBA. Usually, his NBA accomplishments are the only things that are considered in these debates. Yeah. But that's not fair to Dr. J at all, as some of his best seasons.
Oh, bro. But yeah, like if they merged, I think the ABA accomplishments should have some weight, you know. Like I understand it made, cause wait, from my understanding, the NBA was just a little bit more professional. And maybe had a little bit more talent. Just a tad bit. You know what I'm saying? From my knowledge. Let me know if I'm wrong. You know what I'm saying? But it was also, the ABA was good enough to merge with the NBA though and expand new teams, right? So I think those ABA accolades and accomplishments definitely should count towards something at least. You know what I'm saying?
Came in his ABA days. When you include his ABA stats and accomplishments and factor in his entire professional career as a whole, Erving has over 30,000 points, which means that he and LeBron James are the only small forwards to eclipse the 30K mark. He has 3 championship rings, 16 All-Star appearances, 4 league MVPs, 3 scoring titles, and an All-Defense team appearance. That's certainly a worthy resume of consideration, but simply because it's split between 2 leagues, it usually is not. Shooting guard is a position that I'm definitely skipping, because with Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant at the top of the totem pole, and with Dwayne Wade usually getting a respectable amount of recognition, there's really no one else who could possibly have an argument amongst that group. Now onto the point guard position. I usually hear people debate Steph Curry and Magic Johnson, and then after that, I hear people mention names like Oscar Robertson, John Stockton, and even Chris Paul. Yet for some reason, Isaiah Thomas of the Detroit Pistons.
Yeah. Maybe it's because I react to a lot of Bad Boy Pistons videos, so you know what I'm saying, recency bias, I guess you could say. You know what I'm saying? But Yeah, bro, I think IT definitely should be up there.
Seems to have been lost in the discussion.
Bro.
One of the weirdest developments in my life is that I've suddenly become one of the channels who has to remind people about the legacy of Isaiah Thomas. I hated this guy when I was young.
Another point too, man. He's probably not mentioned as much too because he keep bashing Michael Jordan. Like real life though, like you can't be out here spewing negative energy, man. You know what I'm saying? What goes around comes around. What you put out in this world, the world gonna give right back to you, my brothers and sisters. So, you know what I'm saying? You spurring out hate, spurring out all this bad energy. You know what I'm saying? Now we not even mentioning you. Now nobody even gonna mention you, gang. Like, you know what I'm saying? When they mention you, they gonna talk bad about you. You know what I'm saying? And that's not what you want. You know what I'm saying? Just let it rock out. You know what I'm saying? Be smooth, man.
Because he was the leader and the floor general of the bad boy Detroit Pistons. Although they were consistent contenders in the Eastern Conference, they were also one of the most hated and least respected teams of all time, as their brutal and sometimes dirty physical style of play created a lot of adversaries in the basketball world. With that being said, don't let that fool you into thinking that they were not an extremely talented team. And specifically, in the case of Isaiah Thomas, he was one of the greatest dual threats in NBA history. In the 1984-85 season, Isaiah averaged a whopping 13.9 assists per game, which, outside of John Stockton, is the highest assist per game average in NBA history. But he was also capable of completely taking over a game offensively, like when he clutchly scored 16 points in just 94 seconds in an elimination playoff game, or like when he scored 25 points in just one quarter of an NBA Finals game, which he...
Yo, and that's one thing I really noticed with IT. He's very he's a streaky scorer. Like once he starts getting buckets, he gonna keep getting buckets, you know. But if he starts missing and all that, he might get into a little slump. You know what I'm saying? You gotta get out of that. But
he did on a swollen ankle. To this day, that is the highest scoring quarter in NBA Finals history. Isaiah was the type of guy who could get 20 assists in one game and then score 40 points in the very next game, if that is what his team needed. This dual threat aspect was always a strong part of his skill set, and there's very few all-time great point guards who can make that same claim. He was also one of the greatest ball handlers in the game, as he was...
I told you had that motherfucker on the string there.
Basically the Kyrie Irving of his era when it came to elite handling. He was a 12-time All-Star, a 2-time NBA champion, the 1985 assist champion, and the 1990 Finals MVP. Ask anyone who watched NBA basketball during the 1980s, and they'll tell you that although Magic Johnson, Larry Bird, and Michael Jordan drew all of the attention and adoration, on any given night, Isaiah Thomas could have been the best player on the court, and no one would be surprised. So what do you guys think? Who is a player that belongs in a specific conversation, but is almost never included? I look forward to hearing your suggestions.
Sheesh. Y'all gonna have to let me know in the comments, man. A player that belongs in a GOAT conversation for their position that isn't mentioned enough. I can't, you know what I'm saying? I can't think of nobody, you know. I don't really know too much about these players' careers. I don't know the accolades and all that about all these different players' careers. I would never lie. You know what I'm saying? I have no idea. You know what I'm saying? So I can't even do that. Y'all gonna have to let me know in the comments, man. Got some more research to do, but turn on post notifications, share the video with your peoples, like, comment, subscribe. I'm out of here, man.